Before I can walk in another person's shoes, I must first take off my own. Welcome to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, habit number 5, which is seek first to understand and then to be understood. If there was a key to the human heart, this would literally be it. See, fact is that every single human wants to be valued and respected for who they are. The interesting part is that people are afraid to show off their vulnerable side, which is their soft middle side, if they cannot detect a genuine sense of acceptance and love. So I like you to imagine yourself in this type of a scenario. You just finished a soccer tournament and man oh man, you happen to tear a muscle in your leg. Boo-hoo. But anyway, since you're super proactive and since you're doing habit number 1 so well, you would decide to go to the doctor's office and you say, okay, all right, and do something about it. So you go to the doc's office and say, hey doc, well, this is what happened, and then he interrupts you midway. And he starts saying things like, oh, I know exactly what happened to you. So you're gonna need this, you're gonna need these prescriptions, you need to go to physio, you'll be fine, see you later. And you're a little flustered because you realize, whoa, he didn't even listen me out at all. Actually, I didn't even begin to really explain what was going on, and he's already giving me this and this and that. So you kind of shrug your shoulders and you're like, okay, well, he's the expert, so he knows what he's talking about. So you decide to go to physio, and guess what? Things get a lot worse. And you sit down and you think to yourself, man, oh man, if that doctor would have just listened, things would have been so much more different. See, in order to truly understand another person, one needs to listen. The only problem is a lot of people don't know how to listen. Here are the 6 poor listening skills that one can exhibit, and who knows, maybe you're exhibiting, which may not be building your friendships, your relationships, and associations very well. Okay, so number 1, spacing out. When someone is speaking, we withdraw to our own vicinity. Since we're so caught up within our own thoughts, we actually end up ignoring what the other person is saying. At times, a specific individual may be going through some really serious thought processes and emotions, and we simply fail to hear them out. Number 2 is pretend listening, and this is a lot more common. So we still aren't paying attention to what the speaker is saying, but we pretend that we do by spitting out those occasional comments like, yeah, totally, got you. The speaker will usually get the hint and may begin to feel that they are not important enough to be listened to or heard out. So, number 3 is selective listening. Selective listening is when we pay attention to the part of the conversation that interests us most. So imagine that I'm with my friend right now, and she goes on talking and talking and talking, and I'm kind of like dozed off in something else, and all of a sudden she says, musicals. Whoa, a huge alarm spurts in my head, and I'm like, oh my god, have you heard of that musical called Wicked? It's so great. What I just did there is I geared the conversation to what I wanted to talk about instead of what she wanted to talk about. Okay, so number 4. Word listening happens when we pay attention to what the person is saying, but only to the words. We fail to notice the body language, the emotions, and the meaning behind it. So let's just say your best friend comes up to you and she asks, hey, what do you think of Ralph? And you kind of reply, yeah, he's nice, he's cool, he's smart. However, she might have been sending another cue. She might have been saying, hey, what do you think of Ralph? As in, hey, I like Ralph, what do you think of him? Number 5, self-centered listening. This is my least favorite one, but I know a lot of people that do this, and I think this is what ultimately kills a lot of different friendships and connections and all that kind of stuff. So, self-centered listening happens when you view everything from your point of view. These are very much the sentences that go like this. I know exactly how you feel. I totally know what you're going through. You don't exactly know what another person is going through. You just assume that they feel exactly the same way as you do. This type of listening skill actually is very much a one-upmanship game. Basically, where statements like this go really much in handy. You thought your day was bad? Huh, if you only knew what my day was like. See what I mean? And number 6 is judgment. You're way too busy judging in order to hear what the person is actually saying. I mean, luckily, you and I never ever go through such poor listening skills, right? Well, maybe sometimes. The 3 steps in order to learn how to develop genuine listening skills. So step number 1 is to listen, period. Okay, but what does it mean to listen? Listening consists out of 3 various components, and on a graphical scale, I'll give you the percentages of how much each thing accounts for what. So, number 1, body language accounts for 53% of listening. Whoa. Emotions account for 40% of listening, and a mere 7% accounts for words. Number 2 is to literally stand in their shoes. Remember that every single person has a different perception of the world. We have all had different environmental upbringings, we have all had different cultural influences, environments, etc., etc., etc. It does not necessarily mean that they are wrong, it's merely different. And number 3, this is going to be the new skill that you're really going to have to place a lot of effort into, and that is mirroring. The next time you talk to someone, try rephrasing what they're saying. By doing so, you really show a huge sign of interest to the person where they'll feel comfortable enough in order to start elaborating on the subject that they're talking about. Please do remember, we all love to talk about ourselves. Seriously, talk about our interests, talk about our values. If you can tap into that source, that person will begin to trust. And guess what? You start building a really close, nice bonding relationship. So, how do you mirror? Here's some mirroring phrases that you can use. As I get it, you feel that. So, as I see it, I can see that you're feeling, you feel that. Huge warning signal though. When you use mirroring, do not mimic. Now, what is mimicking? Mimicking is repeating words, repeating the same words, or being cold and indifferent in your approach. If you want to learn more on this notion, and if you're, let's just say, the age of 16, 17, 18, I would highly recommend you get the book To Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He really goes into full extension there, and it is quite a read. If you can learn to apply everything he says in that book, believe me, you will be the master and the champion of your own life. I really hope you liked this video. If you haven't done so already, please like, share, subscribe. Cheerio.